Hey, good morning, everybody. What's going on? This is Average Discussion. Thank you for joining me today here in Studio Silverado. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. It's about 33 degrees out here just outside the Salt Lake City area. Nothing crazy really going on, which means that there must be something crazy going on because the news is not very entertaining this morning. So, with that, though, quick little intro, okay? I think I do it every time. Here at Average Discussion, I just like to talk about whatever comes across my mind. I usually use the news as talking points in order to kind of get the conversation flowing. And then I usually end with some final thoughts that are a little bit more personal to me. So, first article here in the world news. One of the ways that you could tell Donald Trump is back in the political news headlines is because Andrew Tate is also back in the news headlines. If you're not familiar with who he is, he's I guess you could say social media influencer of some kind. Anyways, he's very, very outspoken about his views on male-female roles. Either way, Andrew Tate and his brother were detained in Romania and handed UK arrest warrants, their spokesperson says. The social media influencer has said that he moved to Romania in response to the Me Too movement, in part due to the country's lax rape laws. This is probably 40% of the reason I moved to Romania, he once said in a video. I'm not a effing rapist, but I like the idea of just being able to do what I want. I like being free. Now, Tate and his brother are they've been arrested for sexual assault allegations. Several women, I think, have come forward and made their argument, made their case. So, in true practice what you preach mentality, I suppose he's a stand-up guy because he said a lot of misogynistic stuff. I'm not going to disagree with everything that he said. He said a lot of things about, confidence in young men and things like that I think hold true, but now it's all pretty much tarnished. So if you weren't aware, that guy's back in the news, and I just find it very interesting that, I hadn't heard anything about this guy for a long time. He was big there for a minute, then he kind of just disappeared. And now here we go with this whole election thing and Trump and all the accusations that people make around this time of year. So interesting that he's back in the news. So this morning I had to take my son to his weights workout. And so while I was making some coffee, getting ready to leave the house, I saw this article. I was going to try to find it and put it back up here, but I can't find it now. But anyways, it said that Ramadan was going to be less exciting in Gaza. And the only thing I could think of was, no kidding. Like, what? So I went into this speech about how I was telling them, journalists to me are strange because they literally just write whatever, and like, I don't feel like that's an article that needs to be written. I think that's pretty common sense. Like, there's a war going on. So, I mean, if you can pause your war to do your Ramadan, is it really authentic, right? For those of you who don't know what Ramadan is, it's a Islamic holiday, Muslim holiday. Okay. It's about a month long, 29 to 30 days roughly. And they fast during the day from, was it dawn to dusk or whatever, right? And they spend that time in prayer and reading and all that stuff, right? My only experience with Ramadan obviously was in Afghanistan. It was a whole different experience. It is what it is, but interesting. But the fact that they had to write an article about it, it just really blew my mind. So that was in the world news. I didn't feel like that was something that needed to be said. It's crazy, but I don't know. But Japan's Space One Kairos rocket explodes on inaugural flight. With the launch of the small solid-fueled rocket, the startup was trying to become the first Japanese company to put a satellite in orbit. So until I read that part, the second part, I was really baffled for a second. When I just read the headlines, I was really baffled because it really, I thought this was a science that we had down, but I mean, I guess they're trying to make them lighter. They're trying to be innovative and things like that. But this was a science that I thought we had down. So when I see all these ones just exploding, it really pushes me towards the conspiracies that are like, we never landed on the moon. So I don't know. I'm not going to say we did or didn't. Okay. All I'm saying is this was a science I thought we had down, but apparently it happens quite frequently. So the 59-foot 4-stage solid fuel rocket exploded seconds after lifting off just after 11 a.m., leaving behind a large, loud cloud of smoke, fire, fragments of the rocket, and firefighting water sprays near the launch pad. Visible on local media live stream, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I even screenshotted that. I'm sorry, guys. But there was a part that I wanted to read that they were carrying. Oh, here it is. Kairos carried an experimental government satellite. So this kind of leads to kind of back to what I was saying. Like, okay, I get it. They're trying to be the first startup, the first company to get one into space, and they present it as a satellite, and then they're like, oh, well, it was an experimental government satellite, which they had planned to launch for Saturday, but postponed. The satellite's supposed to like help with assisting if satellites go down, I think. So either way, again, I thought this was a science we had down. Obviously, the government was helping them. Obviously, they would be getting help from our government, right? Because they're an ally to some degree, maybe. Maybe not as much as I might think, but sure. Like, I'm sure we would have helped them out. So I'm just under the impression that this is a science that we have down, but it continues to happen. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. But staying in Japan, there's a chemical cat at large in a Japanese city. So apparently a cat fell into a industrial tank of some kind. The material inside, I'm trying to find that part. Hold on. The material that the cat fell into is called hexavalent chromium. If you're like me and you have no idea what that is, basically it's a chemical used in various products, to include plastics and things like that. Okay. But the cat fell in there and he's running around town, and they only know this because they saw the paw prints leading from the site. They've urged all the citizens not to approach the cat, not to touch the cat, for the irritation it could cause, right? But the incident woke us up to, this is from a spokesperson, right? He says, the incident woke us up to the need to take measures to prevent small animals like cats from sneaking in, which is something we had never anticipated before. So, I don't know. Maybe this is the start of a new thing. Toxic cats spreading diseases. Who had that on their bingo card, guys? Not me. Not me. I'm a little tired today, so I do apologize. Pretty crazy. So if you're in Japan and you're listening to this, first of all, thank you. That's pretty impressive. Let me know. That'd be pretty cool, actually. But don't touch any cats that look a little dingy and dirty, Just throwing that out there. So that's the world news wrap up for today. So I'm going to transition over here to the U.S. news. A former Jaguars employee who stole $22 million from the team gets over 6 years in prison. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm not talking about Leonard Fournette, okay? That's not who we're talking about. Apparently, a former Jacksonville Jaguars financial manager who pled guilty to stealing more than $22 million from the NFL franchise through its virtual credit card programs was sentenced to 78 months in federal prison. So, not Leonard Fournette. That's where my mind went. I'm sure yours did too. Like, absolutely. But not him. Nope. The Alaska airline plane, whose door panel blew off midair, was scheduled for maintenance. So that's reassuring. So, like, we want you guys to know, like, we're taking this. We did have it planned for maintenance, but we had like 17 flights we needed to get done first, guys. I mean, what do you want? It's not our fault you want to travel. It's not our fault. The New York Times reported earlier Tuesday that the plane was scheduled for a safety check after some engineers and technicians became concerned, including about what? Who writes this? Or who reads this, I guess? That'd be me, huh? But concerns about a light indicating problems with the plane's pressurization system and that it was kept in service with some restrictions. What does that even mean? Like, it was kept in service with some restrictions, like don't use that door, unless it's an emergency. Like, what are we talking about? What kind of... That's crazy. The airline said in a statement that it, like other airlines, relies on redundant systems, robust processes, and procedures, and the willingness to stop and ensure that things are right before every takeoff. Flight 1282 was on path for blah, 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 blah. None of that's important. Sorry. So I like the way that they word this because I work in the maintenance field. Well, I don't really do much work anymore, but I work in the maintenance field. And one of the things that always drove me crazy was I would hire these people, and I would ask them background questions like, oh, do you have any electrical experience? Because when I started getting into maintenance, I wasn't allowed to touch electrical. That was designated for certified people, right? That's the way the company that I worked for worked. So I was like a nuts and bolts guy, you know what I mean? But where I work now, it's a little bit more lenient on what they're allowed to do and troubleshoot, right? The expectations are slightly different. So I'll ask them these things, and they'll always tell me yes. And what I found is that they always would jump to the most dramatic conclusion, right? Everything that went down with the machine, it had to be a major component critical thing. And then we would find that it wasn't, right? So I get the redundant systems part of this, right? Because there is a lot of safeguards, like processes, right? But obviously I don't know anything about the plane systems, but I get that part. But here's what concerns me is when you say things like redundant systems, right? I try to maintain that I am a nuts and bolts guy. Who am I to think that I understand the way this is supposed to operate better than the people that designed it, right? So I always feel that those things are there for a reason. Now, what I will say is that if I knew that there was a redundant system, you can bet your backside that I'm going to probably overlook some of that. Yep. No, that's going to happen. And I don't think in that industry that that's necessarily a good thing. And it's probably why they're having a lot of problems is that mentality, right? But I get it. I don't know. I get it. But the part that drives me crazy is it was left in service with some restrictions. We're not talking about a bicycle here, guys. Like, we're talking about an airplane. That could have ended up very badly. Crazy. Apparently an ex-border officer pleads guilty to letting people into the U.S. and accepting bribes. While working at Laredo Port of Entry, the former officer permitted people to enter the country without being checked and allowed what he thought was cocaine into the U.S. Anybody else surprised by this? I feel like Hollywood has been trying to tell us for years that the border people are corrupt too. I mean, who would have thought that a federal institution would have corruption? Like, I mean, I didn't see that coming. No. Come on. The former Customs and Border Protection officer who worked with the Texas Port of Entry pleaded guilty this week to letting undocumented people into the U.S. and allowing what he thought was cocaine into the country. Yeah. He took bribes, some of in excess of $6,000, allow vehicles through with kilograms of cocaine, but which was actually sham cocaine and part of an undercover investigation. They got him. His own people got him. Dang, snitches get stitches, bro. So like I was talking about in the world news, right, in that article that said that Ramadan just wasn't going to be the same in the Gaza area. Well, here in the local news in Utah, war in Gaza casts long shadow over Ramadan in Utah. Now, here we go. He goes into the part where it's about a month. They recite a part of the Quran every day, and the Quran is divided into 30 equal parts. All this great stuff. Here's what I will say. There's a part in here that I agree with, but I also take with a grain of salt just because of my own personal experiences in life. Let's see. It's about, this is what the Muslim spokesperson said. It said, it is a month of empathy. It is a month of empathy, of reaching out to those who are less fortunate than you and provide their basic needs and necessities. So food becomes first to help them break their fasts. Okay, because again, they fast during the day, during the daylight, and then they can eat at night, I guess. And he goes on to say it's very difficult because people in Gaza, they are fasting just like us. But we can't even begin to imagine how they're going to break their fast, what they're going to break their fast with. They are going through hunger on the brink of starvation. Yeah, which is probably why it's not going to get much attention. And I mean, I'm sure it will, because they're very devout people, so I'll give them that. Yeah. So apparently it's a bigger concern than I guess I give it credit to. Whatever. And the last thing I'm going to end up with here, because Utah news was really boring. There's some, I don't know. I didn't dig deep enough this morning. I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm kind of on a time crunch this morning. But there wasn't a whole lot going on. So I'm really just not going to talk about too much local news today. So I did come across this though as I was getting ready to record. And a while back I did an episode talking about this piece of legislation, but the House is expected to pass a bill targeting TikTok. Okay. So TikTok, the social media app where you make funny videos, you laugh about stuff, but you can also send a vast amount of information, whether that be accurate or inaccurate, in a very short period of time, right? So it's very popular. A lot of people use it. I included. Go through spurts. I wouldn't say I'm on it every day, but you know, I'll kill some time on it from time to time. You know, a lot of funny videos on there, a lot of funny people on there. But the House is poised to pass legislation today that could ban TikTok in the United States, as Republicans and Democrats alike sound the alarm on the popular video sharing app and say that it is a national security threat. It's unclear whether the bill will pass in the Senate. The chamber is still evaluating, but if it does, Biden said he would sign it. So again, we can't agree on so many other things, but we can come together to ban TikTok. This is going to be completely my opinion. Actually, here, let me just go over a few more things. It says, what exactly does the legislation call for? The bill, dubbed Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, Jesus, would create process for the president through the FBI and intelligence agencies to designate certain social media applications under the control of foreign adversaries as national security threats. Once an app is deemed a risk, it will have 180 days to sever ties with entities under the control of the foreign adversaries, or it will be banned. In TikTok's case, a ban would come quickly if Biden were to sign the bill. FBI Director Christopher Wray has already testified that the app poses a risk to national security, meaning its parent company, ByteDance, would have to act quickly to divest the app. Congress' swift action aiming to ban TikTok in the U.S. clearly has to do with concerns about China. NBC News chief political analyst Chuck Todd writes, but the legislation will likely still allow Americans' data to be available for manipulation and used for algorithms with little public insight. Trump now opposes a TikTok ban despite issuing an executive order when he was president that sought to ban the app. Some of his GOP allies have no problem calling him out on that one. So, listen, this is just my personal opinion on it. Okay? Yes, I'm sure it collects our data and sends our information to everywhere, just like every other thing that we do. So, that leads me to my point. Why these apps? It's easy to point the finger and say, it's a China spy machine. Everything's a damn China spy machine. Everything's made in China, guys, or Taiwan, or whatever. Like equivalent things, right? Again, like I said in the previous episode, we get 55% of our domestic goods from this country. And we're going to pretend like, no, get out of here. This is my personal opinion as to why I think they want this app banned. Like I said before, you can send a bunch of information very quickly. And that information doesn't always have to be accurate. I'll give you that. But oftentimes it is accurate, I think. Because people cite their sources. You know, not everybody, but a lot of people are reading legitimate articles and they're pointing things out. But what is the entire political system run on? It runs on advertising themselves for election, right? And so if you can't control the means in which you're being advertised, or if you can't sway the public opinion with your own personal propaganda, it's an uphill fight for you. And that's something that they've been able to do without scrutiny for many, many years. Many, many years. And now you have a platform that can literally change the image of an individual pretty quick, right? And I personally believe that is why they don't want it. It makes them look bad. And they can't control it. So, how do you control it? You ban it. I'm sorry, but I don't think data's the problem, guys. I think the problem is that they can't control the things people are saying about them. They can do it on Facebook because they can go over to Zuckerberg, right? They can try to do it on Twitter. They did do it on Twitter. They can censor stuff over there, right? But now, and isn't it ironic that they brought this stuff up? It was dead quiet. Nothing really happened. And then now we're getting ready for election time. Coincidental timing. Like I said before, coincidental timing. And now we're bringing it back up. And they're going to push this through. It will be banned. I guarantee it. Because they are not going to allow this election to be influenced. And they're going to say by China. But the truth is they don't want it to be influenced by people like you and me. Who can go out there. We can read some articles. We can connect some dots. And we can make a video and we can share that. We could change public opinion, right? To an extent. Obviously, like you have to be able to see it and all that stuff, right? But that's a very real thing. The only people that are probably on board with the China part are older people, honestly, because they probably just don't understand it. They don't use it. They don't care about it. So they're like, yeah, I believe them, right? But when you see the amount of content that's on there, the type of content that can be on there, it can be very detrimental if you're a political figure running. That's just my opinion. And that's why I think they want to get rid of it, which is why Democrats and Republicans are working together because it benefits them. Anything else, they fight tooth and nail because they just want to put another knife in the side of the current president. You know what I mean? But this, no, we can get on board with this. Oh, I bet you can. It's real convenient, the things that you guys can agree on, isn't it? Because everything else you want to be petty little school children about. But this one you get it. Yeah, no, this is a no-brainer, guys. No, screw you guys. That's what I'm saying. Now, listen, I'm not saying that China ain't doing anything nefarious with the information. I just don't care. I don't care. You've pushed me into this world, and you've pushed all this commercial business on us. Buy this, buy that, have these devices in your house and all this. You've literally pushed that. You've allowed that to be pushed upon us to the point where our data, air quotes, is not secure. Nothing is secure. Our personal information is everywhere. You haven't done a lick to try to stop that. But this one is the one you're going to try to stop. And this is all a byproduct of things that you've let be pushed upon us. It's not like technology just came out 5 years ago, guys. The internet didn't just come out last week. Like, social media didn't just come out last week. But now you're pushing it because you can't control it. That's the way that's personally how I feel. That's why I know, like, the episode I did where I was talking about maybe these agencies are talking together and collecting data. right? When they all started going down because you had the cell phones and Meta, then the government websites that went down during the State of the Union thing, right? Because they've already got them in their pocket. What do they care? But this one, no, this one's bad because you can send so much information so quickly and it spreads worldwide. They're trying to be like China, I think, controlling the media. They're not trying to protect you from it. It's my opinion, though. What do I know? So, anyways, moving on. I'll get into the final thoughts segment here. And I got a lot of thoughts right now. But I think I'll try to highlight this, right? Just keep trying to be a good person. You know, try to do things that better not only yourself but other people, right? And I think a lot of times it gets mixed up with karma, right? And people are like, you know, oh, if I do this, it'll come back to me. And if my understanding of karma is correct, that's not exactly how it works, right? Like you want to do the principal idea behind karma, if I understand correctly, is that the good deeds that you do now, or the positive deeds that you do now, lead to good and positive situations down the road. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the same way that it comes back to you, right? And I think a lot of times it's publicized to us that it's like kind of a I do this comes back to me type thing, right? Like if I go give food to the homeless people, then if I'm ever in a situation, somebody's going to come back and do that to me. That's my good karma. And I don't think that that's right. I don't think that's accurate. I mean, obviously you shouldn't do anything in hopes of that, right? Because I think if that's your intended goal for doing good things, I don't think it's going to come back to you anyways, because inside it pure, you're not being authentic, right? But it gets publicized to us that way. And I think that that's something that a lot of people get stuck on, probably myself included, right? You know, that whole notion of, if I do this, it'll come back to me. And the truth is it probably won't, right? But continue to be a good person and just know that there's going to be people that don't appreciate it or that don't see the value in it until it's gone, or that, you know, there's going to be people that take advantage of it even, right? And that could be extremely demoralizing and hard to work through. But I think the journey is fighting through that, right? And just continuing to be a good person. I don't think anybody's 100% foolproof. I don't think anybody gets it right 100% of the time, you know, but we should keep trying to, definitely. I don't know. We should keep trying to. And don't let the days of frustration get back to you and affect who you are as a person. Even though it wants to, it fights to. You know, it's a tough thing sometimes. But again, like, just know that. I'm sorry, guys, for all the traffic. By the way, I've moved locations. It's been a weird morning. But just know that, like, it's probably not going to come back to you the way that you're giving it. That's just the reality of life, I think. I think that goes with a lot of different things, you know? And I think the hardest part about knowing that you were not always the best person and trying to be a good person is when you reach those points where you feel like it's never enough, you know? And that's tough. That's tough. But I think, again, the journey, the goal is to stay on task. That's where the that's where the amazing works come through, in my opinion. So anyways, I know that the traffic is much louder here, so I'm not gonna contend and fight with it. I don't want to ruin it. I feel like the message was good there. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Please head over to the socials, give me a like and a follow. Facebook, facebook.com/average discussion. Instagram, average discussion. Twitter @AVG discussion. I am on TikTok till they ban it. I'm on Threads. Threads is I don't know, it's interesting. Average discussion for all those. You can find the show on iHeart, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon, probably some other places I don't even know about. youtube.com. The channel show is called Average Discussion. Please head over there and give me a subscribe. I need a few more before I can go live, so I'd greatly appreciate that. If you like the show, don't like the show, complaints, gripes, death threats, whatever it is you want to send, you can email them to me directly at averagediscussion@gmail.com. That's all one word, averagediscussion@gmail.com. Yeah, I think that's about it. So as always, guys, hey, thank you for being with me today. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And until next time, I'm out.